As it grew darker, a bitterly cold wind started to blow down the slopes. Mixed in its freezing blast were flurries of snow and stinging ice crystals. By now, the warm sun of the afternoon was nowhere to be seen, and the slopes of the mountains were a dark, cold, and forbidding place indeed. Lost in the sound of the whistling storm winds, two tiny voices spoke to each other.
Oh, it's really cold tonight. You're right, dear. It's freezing. Maybe to get any colder, we might even die. We could actually freeze to death like we spoon. It already feels like my claws are frozen to the slim. If we only build a nest instead of fooling around all day this afternoon. Oh, it's so good.
These voices came from two birds, like little fluff balls, huddled together on the branch of a gnarled old tree. High up in the Himalaya mountains, the altitude where they live, the snow hardly ever left the ground, even in the middle of the summer. And during the daytime, when the sun came out, it was just barely warm enough for them to get by. That was their trouble. They had vowed that they would build a nest to ward off the terrible cold of the night. But during the day, they had forgotten all about their promise and just flittered around looking for food, dozing a little, and playing together in the sunshine. Now, they both bitterly repented their foolishness.
Oh, we are going to die. Die for sure. The cold is just too much. You will really die. When the sun comes up, let's build a nest, okay? This time, we will forget. Not on our life.
As a matter of fact, it was so terribly cold that night that they couldn't even get to sleep. All night long, they cried and complained and promised themselves that they would build their nest as soon as the sun came up. The night seemed to last for ages and ages as the cold sank deeper into their bones. It wasn't long before they were breathing their last. Their voices grew faint. Their bodies stripped down. And they started to hang upside down from the branch with their poor little feet frozen fast to it.
Oh, yeah. Die.
As soon as the sun.
Just when it seemed too late, a golden beam bounced across the face of the cliff and struck an icicle hanging off the beak of the male bird. The bitter cold must have forced a tear out of his eye and caused it to freeze before it could even drop to the ground. At first, he didn't move at all, but then he slowly opened his eyes for his last glimpse of the world. When he caught sight of a golden shaft of sunlight, he suddenly shouted and shook himself free of ice that had frozen to his feathers.
Oh, it's the sun. Hey, it's the sun. Wake up. It's the sun. Really? Really? Then we don't have to die. Oh, how wonderful it feels to be alive.
I know. Oh, that time feels so good. I think I'll get a little sleep. We couldn't sleep at all last night.
But what about the nest? We will have the time to finish it if we go to sleep.
Oh, don't worry about that. We'll still have plenty of time to build the nest after sleeping and eating a little bit.
So they slept, and they ate. And the warm day felt so good to them. While they were flying through the air, the birds sang their song. Easy in the sky with the wind and the sun. When you get tired, it can always rest. Life is short and the day is long. Who needs to hurry and build a nest? They continued their games for several hours until they noticed that it was starting to get cold. They looked up to the sun, and to their horror, they saw that it was beginning to set in the west. They suddenly realized that they wouldn't have enough time to build a nest before it got dark. With worried looks on their faces, they came down out of the sky and landed on a branch. After a pause, the male bird looked at his wife, and with a half smile he said, "Well, the sun's almost down, and even if we started to build a nest right now, we couldn't finish it, so we might as well enjoy what's left of the sunshine." They frittered away the day, and before too long, it started to get cold.
Oh gosh, it's very cold tonight. It's even colder than last night. Oh, it's getting colder like that till morning. Oh, it's so cold.
And so, the two bird brains spent the rest of their lives foolishly frittering away their days and suffering through the nights. The moral of this story is that we can avoid unnecessary misery if we don't forget the promise we once made to practice Buddhism in this lifetime.